Alright, a pleasant and wonderful Sabbath to all of you. I hope that you are doing well. For after 7 days, we are right here, keeping the Sabbath together, and I hope that everyone is ready for the first message this afternoon. Well, brethren, if you have been asked, what is your favorite Bible story in the Bible? Favorite Bible story in the Bible? Probably some of you would say we have different answers, but most likely, sooner or later, someone would say David and Goliath. Right? It's a very popular Bible story. When I was a kid, I heard this story, and it is really inspiring. And this is very, I would say the children would know this story, the teens, the young people, and also the adults. And most of the portrayals of this story is more focused on the battle itself, the battle between David and Goliath. But brethren, did you know, by just focusing on the story itself, we would most likely miss a very important lesson. That's why, brethren, I want to invite you to look into the historical and geographical background of the battle between David and Goliath. Because when you do that, brethren, this will unlock our understanding of what is really at stake during that battle. Sometimes you just think about, oh yes, David, he's a young lad, he defeats Goliath, he's very boastful, and he's arrogant, he needs to be defeated. And yet, we need to look into the background of this story for us to really appreciate what is really going on here. So that's why I want to look into a map to show you what is really happening. Can you please flash the latest map that I have given or sent? Yeah, that one. All right. So let's go to the story in 1 Samuel chapter 17. This is where we find the story of David and Goliath. So it says here in verse 1. Now the Philistines gathered their armies together to battle, and were gathered at Soko, which belongs to Judah. They encamped between Soko and Azekah in Ephes Damim, and Saul and the men of Israel were gathered together, and they encamped in the valley of Elah, and drew up in the battle array against the Philistines. Now, did you notice that there were 4 places mentioned just in verses 1 and 2? Just in verses 1 and 2, we have Soko, we have Azekah, Ephes Damim, and the valley of Elah. Okay? So, I want to invite you to look into the map and really appreciate where this is located. So, if you look into the map, that is actually the map of Israel right now, the modern day of Israel. In the map, you could see that the Mediterranean Sea is on my right side, and then you could see here the Dead Sea on the left side. I hope that you could see it, but there you go. So this is the Mediterranean Sea and the Dead Sea. So where is this located? The one that is mentioned here. You could see here. This one, I will just improvise. So you could see here. This is where the Soko and Azekah. Soko and Azekah. Alright? So that is actually where the battle is going to happen. So let's zoom in into that. We have another map here, the first one. So that I just show you the quick overview so you know where exactly in the map that is. So there you go. So we just zoom into the map earlier. So this is the place that is mentioned in 1 Samuel 17. So we have Akeka. Actually, this is where's that? So it is spelled differently on the map right now. So that's Azekah and Soko, right? So you could see here that this is the place where the Philistines gathered together. Okay? When you combine the Achaia and Soko, that is actually the place they call the Ephes Damim. So Ephes Damim is the region, and then the Azekah and Soko are both the specific places. Okay? So notice here, actually there are three unknown lessons that I want to share with you this afternoon. Okay? There's actually more, but I just want to focus on these three lessons. So number one is this. Number one lesson from this story is that Satan is trying to conquer you. Satan is trying to conquer you. If you look into the description here, the description for Soko, it says here that, now the Philistines gathered their armies together to battle and were gathered at Soko, which belongs to Judah. Alright, did you notice that? Soko was actually given by God. But in this instance, in this situation, it is already conquered by the Philistines. Did you notice that? The Philistines are actually the people of the lowlands. Can we have the map again? Okay. Can you zoom out, please? So the Philistines are actually the people of the lowland. This region. This is where the trade is happening in the lowlands. Diyan yung parang super highway nila, all the trades, all the new technologies. This actually is where all the modern happenings that are going through at that moment in the land of Philistines. Now, the Philistines are not satisfied by just going to keep Soko. They want to keep on conquering more lands. And what is the next land that they are targeting? Please zoom out, please. The next land that they are targeting is Bethlehem. Now, you would notice later, I will tell you why this is very important. Because during that time, the king was Saul. Do you remember what is his capital city? The capital city of Saul is Gibeah. It wasn't Jerusalem yet because that was during David's time. So, you could see here that when they conquered Soko, the next target would be Bethlehem, Jerusalem, and then Gibeah. Okay? So, you could see here that just like the Philistines, Satan is trying to conquer you. Okay? And just like the Philistines, they will not be satisfied by just conquering one territory. They would say that, oh, we have already conquered Soko. Oh, okay na yan. Tama na. No. They are going to conquer you little by little until you are completely enslaved by Satan and by sin. You see that? So, we as the soldiers of Yeshua, we need to realize that we are in a spiritual battle. And our enemy, Satan the devil, and also his cohorts would do their best to conquer us. Okay? So we need to actually do our best to defend our spiritual territory. Just like Soko, brethren, Soko was given by God to the Israelites. The same manner, brethren, what did God give us? He gave us our faith, He gave us our calling, He gave us our spiritual family, and Satan is trying to conquer all of those, one by one. That's why we need to make sure that we stand our ground. And we need to understand that Satan will not stop by just conquering one territory. So, this leads us to the next point that I have here. Number 2, you must completely destroy sin. You must completely destroy sin. Please go back to our map, just to show you how it looks like. There you go. So, in verse 4, we are introduced to one of the most famous biblical characters. In verse 4, and a champion went out from the camp of the Philistines, named Goliath, from where? He is from Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. That's Gath. Do you remember what Gath is? This is actually the land of the Anakim. Let's go to Joshua 11 verse 21 to 22. Joshua 11 verse 21 to 22. And at that time, Joshua came and cut off the Anakim from the mountains, from Hebron, from Debir and Anab, from all the mountains of Judah, and from all the mountains of Israel. Joshua utterly destroyed them with their cities. But here's the problem, brethren. In verse 22, none of the Anakim were left in the land of the children of Israel. They remained where? They remained in Gaza, in Gath, and in Ashdod. So, we could see here that Goliath would have not existed anymore if only Joshua, the captain or the leader of Israel, did a complete and thorough job in destroying all these people. Did you see that? The sons of Anakim were considered as giants, just like Goliath. Some scholars would tell you that he stands at around 9 feet or 9'9". Okay, so 9'9". So I'm around 5'6". So you could just see he's about twice my height. That's how big or how tall Goliath is. So you could just imagine maybe his head reaches the top of this room. So that is how big Goliath is. So what does this tell you, brethren? When you allow a sin to remain in your life, thinking that it's just a small sin, it's not too serious, it's not something that would really hurt me. But then you know, brethren, that those sins that you ignore or you just try to cover up, they will come back to you like a Goliath. Have you ever experienced that, brethren? That you have this one, just a small problem in your life, just small sin, and you just try to ignore it. Maliit lang naman yan, hindi naman masyadong seryoso. And yet, when the time comes, it becomes bigger and bigger until it becomes uncontrollable. You can just imagine, for example, when you were just a student, bata ka pa, and you are used to cheating. You're copying during exams, and then you are saying na, maliit lang na problema to. And yet, that is actually a precursor of a bigger sin when you graduate. Kaya nga, di ba? A lot of people are not bothered anymore by cheating, by lying, by being deceptive in business. Why? Kasi nagsimula pa yun nung bata pa siya. Those were just small problems that became big. Just like in our society right now, brethren. So for example, so many people think that pornography is just a harmless entertainment. And yet, if you ask those rapists, what do you know? These rapists are actually pornography addicted. We are already addicted to pornography. When yet a lot of people would just say, this is nothing, it is not serious. And yet you could see here, brethren, that when a small sin is not dealt with completely, it will come back just like Goliath. So, I want to ask you, brethren, what are the small sins in your life that you're not dealing with seriously? I would tell you, brethren, eliminate it now before it becomes a Goliath. Before it becomes so big that it will destroy you until you lose your spiritual grounds, just like the Israelites. So you could see here, brethren, that the Israelites could have saved themselves trouble if only Joshua and the other Israelites at that time has completely eradicated them. And yet, because they have not done a complete job, these problems went back, returned, and they are now facing this problem. So, let's go to number 3 here. The third lesson that I want to share with you. So, let's continue. Just read 1 Samuel 17 verse 12. We read here, Now David was the son of that Ephrathite of Bethlehem, Judah, whose name was Jesse, and who had 8 sons. And the man was old, advanced in years in the days of Saul. The 3 oldest sons of Jesse had gone to follow Saul to the battle. The names of 3 sons who went to the battle were Eliab, the firstborn, next to him Abinadab, and the third Shammah. David was the youngest, and the 3 oldest followed Saul, And David occasionally went and returned from Saul to feed his father's sheep at Bethlehem. Now I want to go back to our map here. Okay, so this is our map. Can you please flash the next picture, please? I just want to show you the modern look. All right, so this is actually the valley of Elah. The brown portion, that one, that is the valley of Elah. All right, so you could see there, that's the Philistine camp. Okay, and then here's where you will find the Israelites. So the valley of Elah is actually a very huge plain where the Philistine and the Israelite camp had to face each other. Can you please flash the next picture, please? Alright, so that is the valley right now, today, in Israel. Next. So that's where you will find the locations. So the Philistines are coming from the plains, and the Israelites are coming from the Judean mountainside. Okay? So, the Israelites are kind of like safe in their place because they are protected by the hills and mountains. Please go to the next slide, please. Alright, there. So, you could see the coastal plain, the Shephelah, the hill country, and the Judean desert. So the Shephelah is the one that is the buffer zone of the Israelites. So that is where the hill country would meet the coastal plain. Okay, so that is where the battle is going to happen. Can you go back to the first slide or the first image? And the second one. There. Alright, so look at this. I want you to understand the situation here. Okay? We know that Jesse and his family lives in Bethlehem. Okay? We know that. And if you look into the verse 12 here, it is actually implying that it was only this time that Jesse is sending his children. So his children are not really part of the army, but only this time that he's sending them. Why? Because the next target of the Philistines is Bethlehem. So he knew the seriousness of the situation. He knew that the enemies are right in their footstep or in their doorstep already. And because of that, he is now sending his 3 sons to Bethlehem. So he now know that this is serious. This is something that we could not just ignore, because they are about to get us here in Bethlehem. It is like if there's an enemy right here in the Davao, maybe our enemies are already in Kalinan perhaps, or in Digos, or in Santa Cruz. So you really know that they are already near. And this made Jesse think that, oh, we should fight this battle already because there's a bigger stake here. So you could see, brethren, that because of the proximity of the Philistines, this made Jesse think that they need to fight this battle already. We cannot ignore this anymore. So they are forced to fight the battle. And now comes David. We read in verse 17. Then Jesse said to his son, David, take now for your brothers an ephah of this dried grain and these 10 loaves, and run to your brothers at the camp. So he's now going to the valley of Elah to check with his brother and to bring supplies. Now, this is very, very interesting, brethren. David is coming from Bethlehem. And Bethlehem means house of bread. And about 1,000 years later, do you know who was born in Bethlehem? It was our Messiah, Yeshua. He is also born in the same place where David is coming from. Now this is kind of like an analogy. Just like David, who was called by God to go to the valley of Elah, Yeshua was also called by God to die for our sins. And later we would know that he called himself as the true bread of life. Now this is what I want to share with you, brethren, in the third third lesson here. The third lesson is that we need to step into the valley with faith. We need to step into the valley with faith. You know why, brethren? Because we know that faith is not developed in our comfort zone. You see, David could have just stayed in Bethlehem. It is his comfort place. It is where he grew up. He knew everyone. He knew his neighbors. That is where all the things that he owns are located. And yet, God called him to go to the valley of Elah. Because you know why, brethren? Because our faith is not developed in our comfort zone. It is actually, we need to go to the battle to increase it. Now, I'm not saying that you need to intentionally go through trials and you need to look for trouble in your life. No. What I'm trying to tell you is that when your life is always comfortable, you will never see your faith to grow. That's why sometimes God will call you to do the uncomfortable, the inconvenient and difficult. Sometimes He'll tell you, oh, you have to be absent on the Sabbath. You have to avoid doing this. You have to separate yourself. You need to be holy. And that is where our faith is developed. Just like when I just want to give you an example. When I was in college, right? What if I did not choose to trust God when it comes to the Sabbath? Oh, everyone is everyone is going to our class during Saturday. Why should I be different? Do you think that I would be able to improve my faith? Do you think that I would be able to increase and strengthen it? Of course not. It is only by stepping into the valley that your faith will increase and improve. And that is what exactly David is doing here. He is stepping into the valley to show you that he's stepping to the valley to fight his battle. So you could see here, brethren, that I want you to remember this. Okay, whenever you go through trials in your life, the testing of your faith is not meant to break you, but to refine you. It is not meant to weaken you, but to strengthen you. It is not meant to make you fail, but to make you succeed. So, brethren, I hope that these three lessons have opened our eyes to what truly is at stake during this time. I hope that the next time you will read the story of David and Goliath, you have a deeper understanding and appreciation of what is really happening during that time. By looking to the geographical and historical background of the story, we get more details on what is really, or what are the lessons that we could really get from here. So, brethren, I hope that just like we realize that just like the Philistines, they are not just conquering lands. They are also conquering people. In the same manner, brethren, Satan is not just conquering our actions, our words, and our thoughts. He is actually conquering our identity. So don't let the enemy gain a foothold, brethren, but instead, defend your spiritual territory and be like David, who steps into the valley of faith, knowing that we win our battle not by swords or spears, but with the very power of Yahweh. Hello friends, I need your help. If this is not too much to ask, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. This should only take 5 seconds of your time, but this simple gesture would help me reach more people and share the Word of God with the rest of the world. You have the power to make a difference in people's lives.